Hello, my name is Yeji, otherwise known as ANdmadeco here on YouTube and on Instagram. Today I have another regular video for you filled with what I finished, what I'm currently working on, and some plans and acquisitions at the end. First, I'll start off with what I'm currently wearing. I'm wearing Port Jacket by Ozetta, and I finished this in episode 6 and I talked a lot about it there, so I won't go too much into detail here. But I did use Wool Dreamers Manchalopes in Verde as well as Sandisgarn Tin Silk Mohair in, I think it's 8541 Dusty Light Green held together, and it created this beautiful pistachio color. And I'm wearing the port jacket not because I finished my husband's, spoiler alert, but because that's a lot of what I've been working on this week, and I wanted to talk about it more in that section. So if you are interested in just about the port jacket and my current version that I'm working on for my husband, then you would skip to this timestamp right here. Last week's video was quite long because I had so many acquisitions, and although this week I also have some acquisitions, hopefully this video won't be as long. So we'll just jump right into finished objects, and the first finished object I have to show for you is my finished socks, and these are just a pair of heel flap gusset socks. I think last time I showed you I had just picked up and was decreasing down the gusset of my first sock, and so I have the second sock and it's all blocked and ready to show you. And the yarn for this is Woolberry Fiber Co. Berry Cozy Sock Set, and this is from the Not Your Nice Mystery Skein that she had for Christmas just this past year in 2024. And so it comes with 100 grams of the main color, which is your mean one, and the contrast color. The yarn contents, I think, are just your regular 80% superwash merino and 20% nylon. And I used around just over 60 grams of the main color, as well as around 10 grams of the contrast color for this pair of socks. For this pair of socks specifically, I changed so much about it that I felt like I would just not attribute it to a certain pattern. And I will have my Ravelry notes on this link below if you are interested in creating a pair of socks like this. So what I did was I cast on 64 stitches on a US 1, a 2.25 millimeter needle, and did 2x2 ribbing, I think for around 17 rows. And then I did 10 rows of plain stockinette and then did the color work. But for the color work, I don't know if you can tell, but the color work kind of bulges out a little bit. And that's because for the color work section, I increased up to 72 stitches. And that's because this color work is done off of a chart off of Jamie Lomax's Doodle Knit Directory. And this is coffee cup number 3 with the hearts in it. And so she has a few coffee cups in her book, but I did the number 3. And Jamie Lomax's charts come in counts of 12 or 24. And so I had to choose whether to go up 8 to make it 72 stitches from a 64 stitch sock, or to go down 4 stitches to make it a 60 and have 5 of these motifs instead of 6. I chose to go up for this particular sock, but in the future I'll probably go down 4 stitches just because my color work is quite loose, and so this fits over my feet fine. There is no tension there's no struggle to get it over. And my floats I didn't catch any of my floats. The floats weren't long. I don't think they were long enough to warrant catching, and so they're completely good. But I think in the future, just to prevent this bulging, I might go down to 60 stitches just to see how that does, and then try putting it over my feet and seeing if that also fits. I did a regular heel flap and gusset, and I did a regular also toe decrease as well. So the main things I changed in this were just that I increased up to 72 stitches, and after the color work portion was over, I decreased back down to 64 stitches, just because I like how the 64 stitches on a US 1 really hugs my foot. And I have a US woman's 8 feet, and these fit perfectly well. I did 75 from where I turned the heel to the toe decreases, 75 rows, and I was kind of waffling because sometimes I feel like 80 or 85 fits better, but for this pair of socks, I did 75 and they fit really well. So I'm glad I chose the smaller number. So I did complete a pair of socks for January, and I'm not sure if I will complete a pair of socks every month this year, but we'll see. And just because of my personality, I don't know if I can complete one every month or if I will just choose to do 12 or aim for 12 by the end of the year. And if I choose to cast on something a little earlier, then maybe I'll do that instead. Because when I know I have to do something, I want to do it right then and there. I don't really want to wait. So we'll see what happens for my next pair of socks. I really enjoyed working on the Wilberry Cozy sock base, even though the colorway is probably not what I have chosen if I had seen it and chosen to buy, if it wasn't a mystery skein. But the actual fabric of the sock itself is something I really enjoy. My next finished object is another chunky knit hat. And this one is Viima by Veera Malvaki, which is also a free pattern on Ravelry. And I really enjoyed this hat pattern. You just knit straight up on a 1x1 rib and then do a center double decrease. And I will definitely be making more of this pattern. I used a US 11, which is an 8mm for the entire hat. And I really enjoyed how it fits. I chose to knit a size large just because it is for my dad and it is quite large. I'll have some pictures of me wearing it outside, and when I took the video, it was a really beautiful day and the mountains were out, and so I really enjoyed that as well. The things I have to say about this hat are more regarding the yarn than the hat pattern. The hat pattern is great, very clear. I just started doing decreases when I thought I was going to be running out of yarn, and I did almost run out of yarn. So I did do, because it is a free pattern, I did do center double decreases on every single row when I thought I was going to start running out, compared to doing it and then knitting the next row and doing center double decreases and then so forth. So this is how much I have left of the yarn for this hat, and I have almost run out. So this is Manostil Uruguay and Natural in this for the super bulky yarn, and Drops Alpaca Silk, Brushed Alpaca Silk in the color 1. And so held together, I felt like it would decrease some of the pilling, and I definitely think it does because I've washed this. I mean, I haven't worn it anywhere yet, but I've washed it and it already looks a lot better than the previous one I made. So this one I made in the same yarn just by itself for my mom. And you could see that there's a little bit more of that fuzzy pilling look to it. So I'm really happy that I chose to hold this one with the Brushed Alpaca Silk, just because they are both 100% superwash merino yarn and super soft. So a little bit of pilling is expected. So I hope that it keeps its shape a little better. The things I have to say about the Manostil Uruguay Franca is not too great, just because when I bought the skein, I got it off of the Fiber Gallery, their closing sale, which I was super grateful for. So this yarn by itself, without any sales or anything, is around $44, which I think is quite expensive. But you know, they do have, they are part of the World Free Trade Organization, and so so it is for a good cause, and I think that the price reflects that, and that's fine. I did get it on a really great discount from the closing sale, and so I'm very grateful for that. However, when I opened up my skein of yarn last week when I showed it and when I bought it, I didn't see any traces of any mishap on it. But when I opened up the skein, there were a lot of blue bits in the yarn, and I think it was dye that got transferred over. And just because this is it's natural, right? So it's a white color, you could see the blue portions. And if I open it, you can see a bit more of what I'm talking about, like here, here. And I had to cut out a few of the sections. And so you can really see where I cut it out and then weaved my ends in all of these places. So it affected different parts of the hat. And what makes me very upset is that because I weaved it in, and then I was debating on whether to block it or not, whether the dye would bleed, but ultimately, because it was a gift, I wanted it to look its best. And so I did choose to block it. And so before I blocked it, nothing showed, but now when it is a little open, you can see a little bit of blue peeking out in all of these places. And I wish it didn't happen like that. I wish, because it was so hidden, I'm not sure that it was by mistake that only that certain portion was hidden. And because it affected multiple strands of yarn, it's not like I could just take out just one strand and be done with. It affected the whole loop, a certain area of a whole loop. And it wasn't intentional in terms of the effect or anything. So I don't know that I will be buying the specific yarn again, just because I was so disappointed in that skein, and it just felt like I was kind of duped when I bought the yarn. So I don't know what could be done to prevent something like that, or for me to just, because I don't want to be unwinding skeins in a yarn shop. I think that's kind of rude as well. So, I mean, it was one of those things where I got home, I was super excited to use the yarn, but I was quite disappointed when I found that there was a bunch of really dark blue dye spots. I think that for the purposes of this hat, it's not too visible just because I did cut a lot of it out. But just the fact that you can still see some portions like that, and because I was so conscious about it, it really took away from the experience of using this yarn. I think the yarn is truly beautiful, and it's very soft, and Manistel Uruguay, from what I've read about it, seems like a great organization. But just the fact that that certain portion was hidden within that skein, and it just happens to be so visible when you unwind the skein, I think it could have been prevented somewhere along that step. So this won't be the last of a Viima hat or a chunky knit hat you see from me, just because it's what my parents seem to like right now, and so I have plans to make more. I think my last finished objects take us into works in progress as well, so we'll kind of mesh those two together for this section. But I did finish two more hearts, which are the Love You Forever pattern by Tanis Lavely, and this is also a free pattern, and I made two hearts. This is the Nitpick Stroll Effects, and it's in the color Kiwi as well as Poppy Field tonal. And these are from the tonal kit that I got from Nitpicks in the mini skein pack. I created a yellow and a green heart, and why I'm saying it's a work in progress is because I'm also making an orange heart right now. I think this is in the color Guppy. So I'm making it out of US 0 2mm needles, and what you do is you cast on at the very bottom, you knit the hearts, and then you just put half of the stitches on hold while you make one of the heart shape, the rounded corner of a heart, and then you do the other side. And I talked about this last week, but the reason I'm making these hearts is because Emily from the Tea Cozy Yarn Shop is making a community garland to hang in her shop. And so I am just creating a few hearts. When I went on Sunday, I looked at the hearts that they've received from other members in the community, and I think there were quite a few red ones, quite a few navy ones, but she was missing the colors in between, and so that's why I'm making orange, yellow, green ones, just so that it fills it all in. And I'm pretty sure she's also going to have this up for June as well, so I wanted to make sure she had every color of the rainbow that I could possibly make. And so this has been a really nice project just to have on the go. I have the whole kit here in this bag. So in the bag, I have more of the yarn that I used, as well as some polyfill stuffing. And I have a darning needle in here. And so I'm able to make hearts and just take it on the go. Each heart only takes maybe 1.5 to 2 hours. So, and that's with like talking to other people and everything. So I really like having this as a portable project right now. So last week I didn't have the hearts as a project page on Ravelry, but I think this week I'm going to just put it as just a finished project. And then whenever I add new hearts, I'll include the pictures. I'll just update the photos to have those new hearts in it. Just so that I can keep track of what I've made this year. I thought that just 2 hearts wasn't enough to warrant the actual project page, but if I'm making more, then might as well. My next work in progress is the project that I've been working the most on this week, and it's taking longer than expected. I really thought I'd be done by this week, but just because I was working on other projects, I think it's just taking a little bit longer. So this is what it is. It's my port jacket for my husband, and also the fact that he's everything that I make for myself, or a lot of things that I make for myself, are quite cropped in the body and in the sleeves. But for his, I needed to do longer sleeves as well as a longer body. So it's just more knitting than I'd expected, or that I even realized. I have picked up for both the button bands. So one of them is on a needle and the other one is on a stitch holder right here. And because it is a stockinette, it is curling up on itself, so you can't really see a lot of it right now, but I did put markers for where you're supposed to place the buttons as well. I'm making my husband's port jacket in a size 2, and I'm using the recommended needle size, which is a US 8, a 5mm for the body, as well as a US 7, a 4.5mm for the ribbing. And I'm using it with the recommended yarn, which is Let Lopey, and I'm using it in the color 58, which is dark gray heather. So slightly darker than what's in the sample photo, but I think it'd be really nice for him. And I got some really dark toggle buttons, so I hope that it'll go well. For what I've completed so far is all the body. I just have the ribbing and the collar to do. And so I've used 10 of these balls and I bought 14. I think when I think about it, this is quite a cost-effective garment just because each of these balls, although 50 grams, it ranges from $5 to $7 at your local yarn store. I know that the Fiber Gallery carries it, the Tea Cozy Yarn Shop carries it, as well as Lil Knits. If you are in the Seattle area and you are looking to get some Let Lopey, they all carry it. And I'm sure other yarn stores around this area carry it. I'm not sure which ones though. The reason I wanted to wear my port jacket to compare to my husband's is because although his is a size 2 and I knit mine in a size 3, it is more narrow because the sleeves are longer as well as the body is longer. It just takes up more yarn, as well as just in the ribbing, I had to pick up more stitches for the button band, of course, because it has more in length. And I did decrease the ribbing for the sleeves as well. I've weaved in all of my ends, but I haven't cut in the sleeves just in case he tries it on, but it doesn't fit him. But at this point, I've already done the Italian bind off, so I think I'll just cut it. And if it doesn't, if it's not the correct length, then we'll worry about it at that point. But because he's not here right now in Seattle, I can't really try it on him to test it. And also because it is a drop shoulder, when it does block, it does grow in length in both the sleeves and the body. So this pattern recommends 4 inches for the ribbing, and I did 2 inches for his, but I did knit the sleeves longer. And for the body as well, the completed body, I think for a size 2 is around 11.5 inches for what they recommend, and I did 14 inches on his, and I did only 2 inches of ribbing at the bottom, so that and so 12 inches of just plain stockinette. And there's no real reason why I did it like that, or I did less ribbing, other than the fact that I feel like ribbing takes more time. But I also think that just having a smaller ribbing makes it look a little more masculine. And that's the main change that I'm going to make also for the buttons. I'm going to place his on the right side of his. So right now, my port jacket has buttons on the left and buttonholes on the right side. But for, I think, traditional men's jackets, they have buttons on the right side and buttonholes on the left side. And I think it all goes back to the time where men they were unbuttoning their own jackets, but then women had help unbuttoning, and all of the history that goes behind garment making. And I think ultimately it doesn't really matter in this day and age. Nobody cares. Nobody really knows about it. But at the same time, I thought it'd be nice to put his buttons on the traditional side just to make it a little more different for me as I'm knitting this for a second time. I know that I still have quite a bit of work to do on this just because the collar, it is a double folded collar. So this is actually, I would go up to here before it gets folded down in terms of how much length goes into making this collar. And there are quite a few short rows. So I think that, of course, this will take me until next week, and I might just mention it and show a picture of maybe me wearing the finished garment. But when my husband comes and he's able to try it on and wear it, I'll mention it in another episode, and I'll show you then what it fits like on him as well. The last time I showed you, I had just joined in the round, and so I finished the sleeves as well as the body knitting this week. And so I'm really happy with how this is going, and that, you know, I'm so close that one of the items of my Make 9 will be completed in January. That's all I have to say on the port jacket for my husband for this week, and I'm really happy with how it currently looks and how it currently feels. I think it might get slightly itchy if it does get warm inside and it is up against his neck, but otherwise I'm not too worried because we are having a cold front right now here in Seattle, and so I am looking forward to him getting some wears out of it. the season when he comes back. My younger sister this week asked me to make her one of the hoods. I guess she saw it on Instagram again. This is the same sister who asked for the Dream Vest by Festnets. And she asked for a hood like the Sophie Hood, and so that's the pattern I chose. So I am currently working on the Sophie Hood by Petite Knit, and it comes at a great time because we are going through a cold front right now. And the yarn I am using for this is the Fiberco Zero and Angelic with a Regia 4-ply in 1992, which is off-white or natural, depending on which source you go to. This is my favorite go-to yarn. As you've seen in a lot of my projects, all of my gnomes, the beards are made out of this yarn. I really think that it's a great natural yarn, and it being in a fingering weight is very versatile. And because the Suro is so soft, I wasn't too worried about just the softness of the fabric. I needed something to bulk it up because this is knit at an Aran weight gauge. It is knit with US 8, a 5mm gauge, and so just either one of these wouldn't have worked, but together I think it works really great. And the Fiberco Zero is also the same yarn that I used in my sister's Dream Vest. And I really enjoyed the feel of this, which is why I got it last week at the Fiber Gallery. And so when she asked me to make her a hood, I thought that I would go and see what I had, and I paired these two together to make her a cream hood. The Fiberco Zero is a sport weight yarn. It comes in 50-gram hanks, and this is 40% alpaca, 40% cotton, and 20% wool. And so it feels really nice. It's very light. And I think the fabric that these two held together makes is really nice. And I feel like it's not too yellow because I know that the off-white can lean a little more yellow. She wanted a cream color that's not too yellow, or a gray or a blue, anything on the cooler side. And although I can't say this is on the cooler side, it is a great neutral to have. And I have a little stitch marker, so when I have to increase the next time, that I know how much I need, and then I'll move this bottom one up. So I'm constantly leapfrogging for my increases, just so that I can keep a track of them a little better. And currently this has been quite a fun knit to work on, and I really want to get this done hopefully by next week before the cold front passes, and so that she'll have it to wear during the season. So I am making the largest size in the Sophie Hood, and I do like how it looks. I've never made a Sophie shawl or a scarf before, so I really enjoy knitting it up, and I probably will make more of these in the future just because I do like how it's thinner on the bottom. I feel like it will wrap around and tie better, but also I've also never finished one, so we'll see how it goes. So for works in progress, that's what I have, and my anemone sweater will just have to wait another week or two, but that's okay just because the things that I want to gift to other people, I know I want to do it faster. I have more of a drive in me to complete those objects sooner, so we'll see what happens. Next, we'll move on to plans and acquisitions, and we'll start off with the ones that have concrete plans. Hopefully they'll make this week. So this week I want to focus, this week and maybe into next week, I want to focus purely on gift knits, knitting for other people, especially since these are with chunky yarns, and and it is quite cold, so I am more in the mood. This is Cascade Lana Grande that I've bought specifically so that I can make my mom the exact same hat that I made her last year that she loves so much and she gifted to a friend. And so this is Cascade Yarns Lana Grande in the color Ecru, and I bought 4 of the balls of Ecru. When I showed her the Viima hat, she said, oh, it's okay, I can just wear the Viima hat instead. But I told her that that one's for my dad, and I'll just make her another one since I can make one of the Tilda hats in this yarn as well as another Viima hat in the same yarn. And then I also bought this color, which is gunmetal, although it is a very brown color, so I'm not sure why it's called gunmetal, but I'm not sure. I don't know anything about guns, so maybe gunmetal does look like this. I thought it would lean more gray, but for this, I'm going to make my dad also a chunky Tilda hat because the gray one that I sent to my parents, my mom took. So the gray one that I meant for my dad, my mom took. So I'll make my dad a chunky cable tat in this, and those shouldn't take long. Usually a chunky cable tat takes me 1 to 2 days, so I should be able to finish these hats relatively quickly. And when I talk about a pattern that I've talked about before, I'll try to make it quick so I'm not completely repeating the same information over and over again. For the Tilda hat before, I didn't pair it with anything, and I think it wore fine. There wasn't much pilling, and so I'll probably do the same thing. I'm not sure if for the Viima hat, I will have to pair it with another brushed alpaca silk to kind of pad it up a bit. But I'll keep you updated as I make these hats, and hopefully I'll have something to show to you next week with these yarns. So those are the yarns I have with immediate plans, and the next ones I don't have as immediate plans, but as I said, I did visit Tea Cozy Yarn Shop, and while I was there, I was really looking for a blue to go with the Manchalopes that I bought last week from the Fiber Gallery. And that one is in the color Azul Cobalto, which is cobalt blue. I think this is in the color Dazzling Blue, and this one is in the number 5845. So I bought five. So I bought 5 of these Sandusgarn Tin Silk Mohairs to go with that, and I think it'll be quite a good match. I think I like it when the mohair is slightly darker than the actual yarn compared to when the mohair is lighter than the yarn. So I think that together they will go well together, and I plan on making the Bocce sweater by Monmi Choi with this. It's a part of my Make 9, but I probably won't make it super soon, or I want to make the Anemone sweater first, and so we'll see what happens with this. I know that for the port jacket, I used almost all of the 5 balls I had of the tin silk mohair, so I'm guessing for the Bocce sweater it'll be around the same since it is a pretty oversized sweater. Right next to the Sandusgarn tin silk mohair, they had Lana Grossa Setasuri all hung up on the wall, and it was all so pretty. I chose a color. I think I have a color similar to this that I can hold together to probably make a hat. This is alpaca silk, 69% alpaca and 31% silk, but the core is the same color as the alpaca, and I think that the price is also the same as the tin silk mohair. Pretty cozy. I think this was $14.50. This was also $14.50 with the same meterage, same 25 grams. I think the alpaca, I know some people are less sensitive to alpaca compared to kid silk mohair, so I think that this would probably be better for a hat just in case I do gift it to somebody else, but I wanted to test it out. I know that Elsa, who is Half-Wit Knits, shout out to Elsa, who works at Tea Cozy Yarn Shop, she used Setasuri in her lentil sweater with La Bien-Aimée cashmerino, and it looks really beautiful, and so I wanted to try out the Setasuri as well. And so I was influenced by her, and I got it, and I'm really happy, and the color is so beautiful. It's in the color 16. It's this dark olive gray. Now we're getting to the parts of the acquisitions where I bought things, but I don't have specific plans for it yet. And the reason is that I went to the Fiber Gallery again just because I know last week I said I wouldn't go because I felt like I had enough yarn, and I definitely do have enough yarn, and I still feel that way. But at the same time, I couldn't help myself when I knew that they were having a closing sale, and it feels like I can't get a hold of these yarns anymore. But of course I can because, you know, things are so widely available now. But I still wanted to go, and I think the main reason I wanted to go is because I know they carry Hazel Knits, and Hazel Knits is only 15% off, but I still, I love their artisan sock base when I used it in my Trim the Tree socks, or when I also used it in a muscle burrow that I created. I think that just the thicker fingering weight yarn really has that plumpness, and I really enjoyed working with it. So I got 2. And these were only, again, 15% off, but that's more of a discount you would get than anywhere else. So I decided to purchase these 2. This is Hazelnut's Artisan Sock in the color Release, and this one is in Starry Night. Together, they are so beautiful. I'm not sure if I'll work on these together or if they'll be separate, just because I know if I want to create a muscle burrow, I probably just want to use one color. But if I want to create a sock with some color work in it, then I might want to use these together, but I'm not sure. So this is slightly different than other sock yarns because it's 90% superwash merino with 10% nylon, and it is thicker. Each hank comes with 400 yards, but it's approximately 125 grams. I do enjoy the feeling of it, and so I decided to get these 2. If you are thinking of going to the Fiber Gallery, they still have quite a few of the Hazel Knits as well as the Madeline Tosh I got last time. I think all the things that are in that 15% off range, they do still have quite a bit of. I think the things that they sold out of are the things that are a bit that were on more of a discount at the 30 to 40% range. So there were not nearly as many people in the store when I went yesterday, but also the shelves were more empty, but there were still plenty of items if you are thinking of going. So when I was there last time, I couldn't really look at their sock yarn because it is in the kind of a nook, and because there were so many people there, I couldn't even get in there last time. So this time I really took my time to look at what I wanted. Got was West Yorkshire Spinners Signature 4-ply, and this is in the color Christmas Robin. This is in the color Pink Flamingo, and this is Rouge 1000. So these balls are slightly thinner than your average 400 yards per 100 gram fingering weight yarn. This is 437 yards, but the West Yorkshire spinner is it's not super rustic, but it's quite hardy. So I do like their sock yarns from what I've worked with in the past. And so I'm really happy to just have this. And it doesn't matter if I get to it right away or not, as you know, this one is Christmas Robin. And I think the red would go really well with this, but at the same time, I think I could also use it at any other point in the year and it'd be fine. This one, I'm not sure if I'll use this February or if I'll use something else to make my socks, my February socks with. Other than West Yorkshire Spinners, Kelbourne Woolens was also 40% off. So I purchased some yarns, but they don't have, I think, as much in sweater quantities or in garment quantities, but for accessories, I think they do still have quite a bit. So if you're going to go there now, it's something to keep in mind that they might not have as many garment quantities left. So I have this, it's Camper, it's 200 yards per 50 grams, and I purchased 2 of these, and the color is 260 in Driftwood Heather. So I purchased Camper because, and this is a fingering weight version to the Scout version, because I felt the fabric that the Scout makes, and I really like it because my friend Emily, not the one from Tea Cozy, but another person who comes to Maker's Night on Mondays, she's making a sweater using Scout, and her fabric felt so nice that I thought that, you know, a fingering weight version would feel equally as nice. And because I already had Scout, I wanted to try another weight of yarn. And other than Camper, the last 2 items I purchased were also from Kelbourne Woolens, and this is in Germantown Bulky, and this is also 40% off, and I got the color Pebble, which is this great color, as well as black. And so last week, I don't think you could see this properly, but this is in the color Natural as well as Forest Green. And so together, I think that I would like to make mittens with these 2 and then these 2, and then whatever's left over, I'll mix to see what I could do with it. But it is a bulky weight yarn at 123 yards per 100 grams. And so I wasn't sure if I could get enough out of just the Natural and Forest Green for another project if I do have some leftovers. I really do like Kelbourne Woolens yarn. I really want to work with it soon. I think that it's a great price point and the yarn feels really nice, and I like all the solid colors that they have, so I'm really excited to be able to work with these. In terms of acquisitions, that's all that I've purchased this week, but I do have 2 acquisitions and they come in little Ziploc bags thanks to Betsy, also from Maker's Night. Betsy bought the advent calendar from the Freckled Whimsy and she made socks with hers, and then she had some leftovers, and when we were talking last time, I mentioned that I really liked the colors and everything from her advent socks, and so she said she had some leftovers and she could give them to me when she was, the next time I saw her, and then I saw her again this week, and so she gifted me these. These are already rolled up into 2 separate balls, as well as the contrast color. And so I was thinking that I made these little cuffs for socks before when I accidentally, made one. It was a whole mishap. I think I talked about it in episode 3. But I was thinking that I could use these cuffs and then make the little socks with it, and then use the contrast colors for the heels and the toes. I'm not exactly sure if I'll have enough for everything, but she even put down on this little note piece of paper. She even put down on this little piece of paper how many stripes there are left in the socks and how many she needed. And she has a US woman's 8 foot as well. So how many stripes I'll need, or how many pairs of stripes I'll need to make socks for myself. And she made a heel flap and gusset sock, so I think I can do the same thing for mine and have very similar results. And the yarn is, again, Freckled Whimsy in the color Merry and Bright, and this is the Advent Self-Striping 2024. And she also brought this in, which is 51 grams of Madeline Tosh Twist Light. I'm not sure which color it is, but she also has wound these up in 2 separate balls, and so there's nothing much to do. I usually, when I make my socks, I will wind it up in one ball, pull from the middle, and then pull from the end, the outside end of another ball, and then make socks in tandem that way. But the problem is then it kind of gets twisted as it rolls around, and so you have to untwist it. Just because I'm too lazy to roll it up into 2 balls, and I feel kind of bad cutting yarn when it's not supposed to be cut. But since it's already done for me, I think that this could also be great socks, and I'm very looking forward to using this as well. So thank you again, Betsy. I think that I got quite excited there at the end and was talking quite fast, but I'm very excited for the acquisitions, especially for the gifts that were gifted from Betsy. And so I definitely will be making those socks very near in the future. This week, I will probably focus on all gift knits. I'll finish the port jacket for my husband, and then try to get as much work done on the Sophie Hood as well as some hats for my parents. And next week, I'm not sure what I'll have to show you, but for sure I'll have a completed port jacket. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you will have a great week, and I will see you in the next one. Thank you. Bye.